Hey brats, welcome back to the channel, and today what I thought would be kind of cool would be to talk about the history of why I love VR, and then to hear from hopefully many of you about what brought you to VR. So mine started a lot of years ago actually, when I was a kid. I remember my brother and I were playing on an N64 that we had just gotten. It actually is kind of a funny story. He actually bought it, so it was technically his system. He bought it by doing an asthma test. So like, we both had asthma as kids, so he did like one of those medical studies where they pay you to do it. And he got a good amount of money from that and bought an N64 when they were still pretty new. So the first game I remember playing as a kid that really captured my imagination and really made me think towards the future was Mario 64. This game, the way you played in a 3D environment, the platforming aspect, just everything about this game, just really, I absolutely loved it. And I remember my brother and I playing it, and we were talking about how one day in the future you'd actually be able to be inside of the game playing it. And that was obviously like childhood fantasies and stuff. I didn't really think that it would be so possible, especially this soon after that we can put on a VR headset and seriously feel like we're in the world of Mario or other games. So that is absolutely crazy now, but I remember at the time thinking, oh yeah, that'll be really cool, but I didn't think it'd be anytime soon in my life that I would be able to experience anything like that with video games. So then fast forward a few years, and at the local family fun center where I grew up, there was this crazy VR booth that they had brought in. And from the looks of it, from the outside, it looked like shooter game. They only had little monitors up, but it didn't even look like it was this good. This was some of the only footage I could find that looked similar, but it didn't even look this good. It looked like it was just like red lines that made up everything. Like it wasn't even in color. But I remember seeing that, and I absolutely wanted to try it so bad, but it was like $20 for just one game, and that was like a lot to my family when I was a kid. So I didn't get to try it then, but I remember it always in the back of my mind. I kept thinking about what was that VR. It wasn't even called VR back then. We called it virtual reality. Said the full name. It was like, what was that virtual reality thing like? And I was always curious, and I always wondered about it. So then in 2011, we got an iPad 2. It was a gift from Natalie's grandma. She gave it to us. And I remember I played a game on it that had something I'd never experienced before. So it used the gyroscope to actually aim and see. So you basically held the iPad up in front of you, and you could turn it from side to side, and it would be like you were looking into another world through this window. So you'd have to turn physically in place the whole entire iPad to see, and that would follow your movements. And so you had like this little window in front of you that you were holding, and I remember thinking that was the coolest experience I'd had in a long time in gaming. Like obviously it's an iPad, how cool could it be? But the fact that it was like you were looking into another world and you could physically turn and see it really blew me away. And that was when I started thinking, okay, I said to her, I was like, this is somehow going to be, I feel like, a big part of gaming in the future, but I don't know how. I didn't think, how are they going to strap this thing up to where you don't obviously have to turn this thing and hold it. It was really cumbersome, but it was really cool to see a glimpse of what it was like. So again, fast forward a few years later, and I was a big Jacksepticeye fan. I was watching him just before the PewDiePie shout happened, and I remembered seeing his Oculus unboxing. I've been reading about some of the stuff that was happening with this company Oculus, and he got the DK1. And when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is what I've been thinking about all these years. This is what I've been waiting for, and this is VR. And obviously we look back at the DK1 now, and it seems like such a joke. It's almost like I said with the iPad, you took this thing and you literally just strapped it to your face. Like, they were huge, they were cumbersome, they didn't have any motion tracking, but it just blew me away, the thought of how already, not even that long of a time since I played Mario 64, now people were able to put a headset on and feel like they were literally in the world of the video game. It was an extremely exciting time, and still, when I think back to those times before I ever actually got to test VR, and when I would just watch videos and see what it was like, it was just awesome, and I couldn't wait. So then I believe it was in March of 2016, I'd been watching the launches of the Rift and Vive started happening back then, and I didn't have a gaming PC at the time, and they were crazy expensive still at that point, the ones that at least could support VR. They've come down a lot, so now if you're considering it, and you still haven't made it, it's much more approachable than it was back then. I remember it basically seemed like you weren't going to be able to get into VR for less than $2,000 between the computer and the headset at the time. I mean, the original Rift launched for what, $600, and it didn't even have the motion controllers with it. You had to pay like $200 for those or $800 for the Vive. So that, and then you still had to get the gaming PC. So there was just no way at the time, but I really wanted to get into VR. So I went in and put down a reservation the first day you could possibly pre-order for the PSVR. That was super exciting for me because I was like, this is something I've been watching for years. I didn't know how the PSVR was going to be in comparison to what the videos I was seeing online of the DK1 and 2 of the Rift, and then of course the original Rift and Vive when they came out. But it seemed like Sony was a company I trusted. They'd done a lot of great things over the years. I've had most all of their PlayStations, and I said, okay, we're gonna take this risk, because it was $500 back then to reserve the entire PSVR bundle. And then that next month, actually, it was kind of funny. Samsung offered a deal through AT&T. If you upgrade your phone, you get a free Gear VR. So the Gear VR was actually one of my first. It was a white one back then. This is a slightly upgraded one. I don't have any of the white ones anymore. This was my real first foray into VR. And if you've never tried a Gear VR, it's an upgraded version of Google Cardboard. It's a lot nicer, but still, it's only got 3 degrees of freedom. You're only turning your head and looking around. But even this can give you a serious taste, and you can see tons of videos out there of people. This is still really convincing for what it is. It scares tons of people and freaks them out. So this, I actually got one for free several months before I got my PSVR, and this just sealed the deal for me. I knew if PSVR was any better than this, I was going to be absolutely in love with it. So then time rolled around, and we finally got to October when it launched, and I remember going to the GameStop that morning. I was super excited, and I asked the guy behind the counter, hey, how many of these did you end up selling at this? And he said it was only 2. I was one of 2 people that had pre-ordered through that GameStop. But I got my box home, and I was just absolutely ecstatic to get this home and open it up and try it out. And so for those of you who haven't stuck with PSVR for a while, you didn't have one back then, when it first launched, they didn't produce enough. Sony admitted that. They did not produce enough of them. And so it sold out almost instantly once people had actually tried them and wanted them. 2, they hadn't really fine-tuned the tracking at all. Like, if you think PSVR tracking is not great now, you should have tried it back when it first launched. Like, your hands would wobble like a whole inch when you held the controller still. It was pretty bad at first, but it was still so convincing, and the presence you had in the games, it was so amazing that everyone I tried the heads on, it blew them away. It was so cool. Later on, once the aim controller was about to be launched, they said they learned a lot about the tracking through developing that and actually improved it. So now you still get a little bit of wobble in PSVR, but I mean, it's millimeters instead of it was like whole inches. It was pretty crazy. A couple years of having the PSVR, finally I got a gaming PC, not a great one, but one that would kind of run VR. It was like a GTX 970, so it was just barely strong enough, just barely up to spec to actually do it. And they ran a deal on the HP Windows Mixed Reality headsets. They were selling refurbs for only $160, which was a great price at the time to get into that. And so my first PC VR headset was the Windows Mixed Reality headset. If you've never tried it, it's actually pretty good. It's got a really high definition screen. Really the only problem with it, they weren't super comfortable. They tried to kind of copy the PSVR's design, but somehow they just made them really uncomfortable. I tried this one, I've worn the Dell. The Lenovo Explorer was probably the most comfortable I tried. I never got to try the Samsung Odyssey, but it just wasn't comfortable. I actually even modified mine. I changed out some of the padding to make it a lot more comfortable and to help increase the field of view. So that was my first step into PC VR, was that headset, and I played hours and hours of Minecraft in PC VR. Then I saw a deal. This would have been 2018 now. So just 2 years ago, I saw a deal on an Oculus Rift on eBay. So I got this one. It was a really good price. I think it was like $150 for the entire kit. Well, it came in, come to find out it was broken. This one, I'm not much of an electrician, but people told me I could probably fix it if I just open it up. The proximity sensor inside doesn't actually work. So you have to bypass it to get into games, which means some games work, some games just absolutely will not because they rely on that. So I was able to actually play some Beat Saber and stuff on this and enjoy it, but that kind of hurt because it was broken. The seller refunded me most of it. He was super cool about it, but it definitely hurt the experience. So my first truly legitimate experience of owning what I would say is a pretty great PC VR headset is the Oculus Rift S, which right when I got this was actually when I started the channel, and so many of you have been so supportive. Thank you again. It's been an awesome journey since then. So I got this right at launch last year at the end of May, and upgraded my gaming PC at the same time too, so I could actually start recording for the channel. So I have been an absolute advocate of VR since, I guess I would say, even before I really had my headset. I was so excited for the future of it. I've demoed it for as many people as would let me, friends, family, people I barely even know, just anyone I could get it to, because I just love it. It took me from a time when gaming had become kind of stale to me. I still played through some games on the PS3, and I absolutely loved Resident Evil 4. But for the most part, I was just thinking, oh, maybe I'm aging out. Maybe I am not as excited to game as I used to be. But putting a VR headset on, it changed all that for me. And I just went 100% back into gaming and just went crazy with it. So as you know now, I have all kinds of VR, and I've bought way too many peripherals and accessories for it. But it's just great, and I love it. So like I said, I would love to hear some of you tell me in the comments, what was your VR journey like? You know, what brought you to it? Did you get a headset early? Did you try one at a friend's? Or are you're watching the channel and you're still not sure if you want to get into it, if you're waiting for the next gen to get something even better? So let me know what your story was. You've heard mine now. I want to say thank you for hanging out today. If I know I missed a couple uploads over the weekend, I've been really busy. I've got a game, I can't really say too much about it until tomorrow, but it's launching on PSVR tomorrow, that I've been trying to play and get the videos all ready because it launches tomorrow and I can't have any videos out until it actually launches. But I've been trying to get through it as much as I can so that we can have some good footage and I can have a good review for you tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight, and I will see you in another reality.